All right, I'm gonna call the Cotuit Fire District Prudential Committee meeting of February 27th, 2024 to order. If anybody's recording this meeting, I need to know. Speak up. If anyone is recording the meeting, please let me know. Nobody's recording it. Thank you. We have a roll call starting with Seth.
Present. Mark Lynch here.
Seth Burdick.
Seth Burke, present, sorry.
Fran Parks present.
Great Ron Treasurer present. Charlie Egan present.
Thank you. Have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Is there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll continue. Chris, do you want to go first with your budget review? For the water department?
Yeah, so we have a
Yep.
handout. It's.
Oh, you wanna come up?
Well, yeah, you need to sit up here.
Mark Robinson, Water Commissioner. Our Chair, Scott Horsley, is on vacation, so he asked me to sit in. We also have Dave Turbuck, another Water Commissioner, here with us, and Superintendent
The guy.
Weissman.
Give you another.
So this is about the revenue for the department, and some of the projections and actuals, as you'll see in the handout. And just to hit some of the high points, these figures in the gray boxes are projections. And so it says actuals, but they're projections because of course the fiscal year is not over yet. Our excess use billing, which is based on the gallons per household, was down 300,000 from last year, but it exceeded our projections by $50,000. And so that's the type of decrease that we were expecting. And so I know Ray has a workbook which projected 1.157 million in water revenue, and we should meet or exceed that number by the end of the fiscal year. So that's on the revenue side. So any questions about that?
That's a little bit of a happy surprise based on Ray's comments from prior meetings, because you're pumping a lot less this year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because of weather,
Yeah,
basically.
and we're very happy about that, and you'll see that we have a new study that we're just released this past week, showing that there's a lot of private wells that have been installed, about 80 throughout the village, and so we're seeing a nice decrease in the overpumping that we had been experiencing, particularly in the summer months. This little report that we produced, we're trying to answer that question. Well, if you're just sucking the same amount of water, how are we conserving water? But you'll find that 80% of these new wells that have been installed for irrigation on private properties have been installed outside of our zone 2, which is the actual land area that captures the rain and contributes it to the wells. So, for instance, if there was a well right here irrigating a lawn, that's not affecting any of our water supply because this is groundwater that's just migrating into Nantucket Sound. It's just being wasted, so to speak. And so what we were concerned about, of course, was the summer demand that was really putting stress on the pumps and the other equipment. And so we're hopeful that this reduction in volume will continue. And because of the rate structure, we don't think it's going to provide a lot less revenue.
Is there any restrictions on where in the village or in the fire district you can put in a new well?
Then I know. I mean, we've seen them right down along the shore. It's
Yeah,
you might get a little saltier there, but
but I was more concerned with people putting them into zone 2.
Well, I'll send the study around to you. I think you'll find it instructive, but what we're in layman's terms, which is what I use, because I'm not a scientist. A lot of little sips is not the equivalent of the big suck. So for instance, our wells are averaging about 1,000 gallons per minute when they're working hard, some of them.
Yeah, we can go up to 28.
2,800 gallons per minute. A private well is 5 to 20. So it's a couple of orders of magnitude lower.
Okay.
And it's just, the cumulative effect of all those small little sips is not equivalent to the big suck that our production wells do. So, and then on expenses, we have, we're going to have a savings, unfortunately, because we had an employee leave, and we have since rehired, and that's just coming on board. So there'll be a small reduction in salary for that position because of the delay in getting somebody new on board. We told the district meeting last May that there's a lot of poaching still going on, and that's exactly what's happened. Is the higher salaries elsewhere enticing, particularly the junior operators to move out, to move up, and we have some generator repair expenses that we're extending. We're expecting. We need to purchase new meters. We have a $10,000 cybersecurity assessment, and we're going to spend some time at one of our recent upcoming meetings talking about cybersecurity and other security measures that we've taken and should be taking to secure the water supply. If you've heard any of the news around the country, it's a very important topic. And the nice thing is, one of our Cape vendors, the Horsley Witten Group, just got a $10 million contract from EPA to do this kind of assessment and recommendations on a national basis. So we have access to some free help through the sandwich company over there. If you noticed, it's called the Horsley Witten Company. So, of course, our chair is the founder of that firm. And I think another item is the computer copier line item, and we expect that to be overspent by $4,000, but we have underspending in other operating expenses that we think should cover that. And so those are on the operating expenses. There are some things that we expect to turn back, and those are special appropriations. So for instance, the billing software transition last year, if it hasn't already been turned in, Ray, it's about $6,400 that we can turn back. So that's been done, transition. The test wells from last year, that expenditure is done. There's a zero balance on that. The service truck from last year, we have $982 to turn back in from that expense. And we also have ongoing special appropriations on electrical upgrades at the pump stations and the water main replacement. That's going to be more of a focus for this year. Which was is it lowest pond?
Just a little on both of those. The electrical upgrades, I'm waiting on a couple replacement spare parts for those. We put in VFDs to bring down the electric that we were using demand charges. I'm waiting, it's like a 1 year wait on getting a new one. So we're trying to get spares of each one that we have, take it out of this fund. That's why we'll keep it going for a little while. And we have started with Little River Road, our Lewis Pond Road replacement. We actually expect to have it up to bid within the next 3 weeks. So things are going right along with that. We have probably planned on finishing before summertime, or it gets down here too busy. So we'll be looking to get money back to you. Probably gonna have to stay another year, I would think, just because of just in case something happens, we get some sinkage in the road or something like that, pavement issues. But to carry with us, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be pretty much, and I'll have a better answer for you once we do get it up to bid, how much we're gonna actually use out of that.
Any idea how old that main is?
It's a 2-inch main.
How old is it?
I'm gonna say,
Is it older than you?
no, I think it was fifties actually, so,
Okay.
yeah, that was good in it. So, yes, it is old, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, Chris, I think I understood the electrical upgrades, the water main replacement. You think we will do that in this fiscal?
No,
year?
just a little bit on that, you get that bar there, what I think is gonna happen is a couple things there, we need to purchase a couple 2-inch meters. 2-inch meters are over $900 a piece, so we're gonna be replacing some of these older ones that get up higher to make sure they're accurate. And they're a better meter now that continually can tell us like there's a leak when it's running. Like what time of day, if it keeps on running and doesn't stop, or if they get something stop and go, they can keep track and say what time it came on, when it didn't come on. If it came on, when it didn't come on. So everything's getting very smart now, and some of these are costing more money. But, that was back in the regular expenses. We're gonna be. We're gonna be kind of close. Giving stuff back, I don't see as much as last, I think last year I gave back 20,000 or something like that. I think it was around. I don't know if it'll be, I believe it'll be less than that this year. There's a lot going on, and I have the opportunity to fix a problem at one of the stations that I want to wait to clean up a little more before I give it a go on that.
And so that $187,000 figure for water main replacement.
Yeah, that's a 200,000 appropriation.
Okay, and
That's
that-
the one we're talking about now.
And that is gonna be spent this fiscal year.
I'll be able to give you a better. It's gonna at least get started.
Okay. Yeah, great, thank you.
I have a question for the committee, and I'm just getting opinions. You notice that our West Street tank near the school is continuing to get moldy and mildewed. And I was leading the charge to fix that a couple of years ago. We spent $16,000 to clean it. It lasted several months, which I considered to be a waste of money. I said I wouldn't vote for it again.
Every month was like 2 or 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've also talked to Water Superintendent Meltzer on the Cape. He says it's a very common thing. And they spend $18,000 to have it done every 2 years. And so what do you think as village people? Is it worth doing? If it's just gonna get bad again?
Well, I think for years we looked at steel tanks, right? Or I looked at it, maybe nobody in this room did.
They're a different color, and they kind of hit it a little better when they were
Yeah.
that bluish color, they call it sky blue.
Yeah,
Now it's called tank white that's out there,
Yeah.
boy, does it stick out. And to tell you the truth, I don't know if it's because we're closer to the water or what. This one over here seems to have more than I've ever seen it have, seems to be climbing up the sides. I don't even know how it can be that, as it's going, because the water isn't that high. It's really weird.
and the COMM one that you can see in Centerville, by Old Stage,
Yeah,
that seems to be white.
yeah, that's because it's concrete, and then up there, it sits on top, and I don't know if it. I don't think they have a heating system, they just repainted that, I think it's that deal. For emergent, yeah.
Well, I don't think we need to do it for 2 years.
Unless it is a preventative maintenance thing. that-
Well, I was concerned that it might be a cause of structural issue. Chris says no. Well, it's just more of an aesthetic thing.
There's a paint out there, I was just talking to a gentleman the other day, there's a paint out there now that supposedly could help with it. But I don't wanna go to trying to paint that,
Yeah.
spending $1 million to paint it or more. And then find out that it doesn't work.
Could you just test paint a section with that new paint?
I'm supposed to be back with the guy, because he's trying to get me to sign on something every couple of years, doing something to the tank, that's how they make their money. I never have it.
All right, I don't hear groundswell of support to clean the
No.
tank. We'll clean the inside of the tank. That's important, okay? But not the
I'd do a test of that other paint.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's see if it works.
Another thing I'd point out is that we do have that reserve that we have to fund each year for USDA.
Yeah, it's.
We're sitting with $62,000 in it now.
Okay, yeah.
So, in a way that we're not gonna lose it. And we can keep it for any, emergency that might rise for the tank. But
Because it can only
that
be
money
spent
is sitting
there.
there. We have to spend it, if you will, we have to save it, if you will, each year by regulation or by terms of the agreement. Mark, the other thing, I think we're both on the same page in terms of revenue. And what I look at each month is progress on the budget. And as you'll hear me say, we're still short of that target with water revenue. Now, what they're looking at quite wisely is the whole year. And they say, we're gonna collect all that. That's fine, but I have to watch what we do month by month. Yeah, and so that's why you have that difference. There's still a shortfall on the budget target for January. But
Which we expect
what the
will be-
department is saying is, that's fine, Ray, but we're still going to achieve that 1.1 million at the end of the year.
Because of the revenues we expect
Collections.
from
at this
pumping
point.
in the next few months, or
We
from-
go 4 times a year, 2 of them are very small, larger, so money comes in big slugs.
By the way, if anybody didn't pay their water bill tomorrow, it's due. We gotta have penalty. And pay it just-
Thank you. Chief?
Good evening, how you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Right. So, my first year participating in this process. So I did prepare, I don't have enough for everybody, I apologize. You've seen this though, Ray and Lisa, Charlie, and so going back to Ray's report, we can start with revenue. We're roughly $40,000 ahead of our projections for ambulance revenue, and that is reflective of increased call volume. So more calls, more EMS transports. Generally, you're going to see an increase in revenue. And that's really our primary revenue stream in the fire department. We do get some revenue from permit fees, but there's not a ton of fees that come in through permitting in Cotuit. So, any questions on the revenue?
Can I ask a permitting question? Are you getting more that are using the online process rather than checks or cash?
Do you think yes for fire as well?
I
So,
think you're about equal, well, anyway, we're getting more, online than
Yeah.
we had before.
yes, yeah, so I would, concur definitely. We're seeing an increase in it, whether we've surpassed what we bring in checks yet, I don't know, but, yeah, it's definitely increased in use.
Great, thanks.
All right. Mid-year budget. So when I prepared this report, it was on the ledger through February 9th. The fiscal year was 61.21% at the time of the report. The budget control for salaries was 62.37 expended. Budget control for operating expenses was 49.62% expended. Significant overages in the budget lines are incident permanent, the full-time and repairs and maintenance of vehicles. Reimbursable OT also shows an overage, however, those costs are fully recovered and offset. Incident permanent, so trial measures were taken during fiscal year 22 to incentivize and improve callback. And this was critical, as many of you know, we do have the second ambulance available now. So they really wanted to improve callback so that we could staff the second ambulance. These measures were successful. They were ratified into the current CBA. It is estimated that $156,000 will be charged against this budget line in FY24 if the current trend carries through for the remainder of the fiscal year.
And just for our audience and maybe for me, incident permanent means.
Very good question. Thank you for that. So incident permanent is the recall budget. So that means when our personnel are tied up on one incident, we bring back off-duty members to cover the station and bring additional apparatus to the ongoing emergency or respond to other emergencies that come in and overlap. which currently right now about 30% of our calls are overlapping. So 30% of the time when we're out on one call, we get an additional call will come in. So or at least one additional overlapping call will come in. And that has generally been a consistent trend. Other FT, so other full-time budget line has been influenced by two significant factors. There's a program area management and light duty. So one of the newer program areas that we have is the reassurance program. And some of those activities are done by personnel that come in off duty and work overtime to go and do some of the home safety inspections. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the reassurance program, it's one of our community risk reduction efforts where when you sign up for the program, the community risk reduction team will go into the home. They'll do a home safety visit, perhaps install smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, looks for things, slips, trips, falls, fire safety hazards, and help with the installation of a key box so that if we do need to gain access to the home, we don't have to do damage by forcing entry. Now, once these individuals sign up for the reassurance program, they call the firehouse every day and they press the button on the automated system and they leave a message. This is my name. This is my address. I'm okay today. Around the middle of the day, the captain on duty checks the messages. And if an individual that's signed up for the reassurance program does not call in, we call the number they have on file. They answer. Most of the times they say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot, I got busy, didn't call in. Great. If they don't answer, we actually dispatch a unit, non-emergency, to go out and check on the person that signed up for the program. And most often they are either out shopping with a family member or just forgot and didn't hear their phone ring, or as in the case that we had 2 weeks ago when one of the individuals didn't call in and interested. So an individual didn't call in. One of the personnel took the patrol truck and started over to this other person's home. Another call came in, an emergency call they had to divert to. So they went to the emergency call. Somebody that came in from home then continued with one of these recall individuals under the incident permanent came in, completed the reassurance follow-up, and turned out the individual was having a medical emergency that prevented them from making the call or answering the phone, and very likely would not have survived. It likely would have not survived the incident had it not been for the program. So their family has been in touch and very thankful for the program that they have. So anyway, that's one of the program area managements. We've also doled up significant portions of functions of the organization, and sometimes that does require some of these individuals to come in and do some work off duty. And it's really had an impact on the ownership within the organization, because so many of our personnel now have these areas of responsibility, budget management, program management. It really is part of our ongoing, not just the ownership in the organization, but part of professional development and our leadership succession programming, so that as our folks promote, as we get ready for the day that eventually when it comes my turn to move on, and when the deputy we all eventually retire, right? So what we want to do is have a strong bench for these folks to move up. So again, those programs are funded out of the other FT. Light duty as well. So for this fiscal year, we've had somebody out injured at all times, pretty much for this fiscal year. Not necessarily the same person, but a person. When people are able to come back on light duty, we do have a light duty provision in the contract, and sometimes when they come back and do certain projects, or whether it's work hardening to prepare to return to duty, their time goes from other coverage lines to this. So So that's a long story to get to that. This will be about $38,000 charged to that line this fiscal year, and I want to say that's funded at 26.5 normally. 26.5, so that'll be about just shy of $12,000 over based on current projections. Any questions on the other full-time line? Okay. Reimbursable overtime is work through FEMA, or if we detail people out, we did have a program in place where we were assisting the state with providing EMS services to the migrant community that was residing on Joint Base Cape Cod. Joint Base Cape Cod did not have an ambulance out there, so they're using medics from the surrounding fire departments, Mashpee, Sandwich, Bourne, Falmouth, and Cotuit to provide that EMS coverage that was funded through the state and is fully reimbursed to the organization. So as I mentioned before, the budget line is 62.37 expended. However, when you factor in that we recover all those costs, it actually brings the budget down to 61.42% expended in the budget segment, or the salary and wages segment of the budget. So that is the salaries and wages segment. Any questions on any of those? Okay. Repairs and maintenance vehicles. The aging fleet of the apparatus requires both regular preventative maintenance and unanticipated repairs. It is anticipated that we will be able to offset total FY24 overages in the maintenance budget lines, but this will likely come at the expense of other necessary projects and in the keeping our aging firehouse in service. We have some projects that we're kind of kicking the can down the road, for lack of a better term, until we get close to the end of the fiscal year to see if we can fix some things in the fire station to bring that overall segment. So there's six budget lines within that segment for repairs and maintenance. And overall, we will probably, bottom line in those 6 areas of that segment will come in within budget. Again, it's going to likely be at the expense of other things in the firehouse. After analyzing a 3-year trend in this line, we'll be requesting the appropriate amount in FY25 to reduce the chances of the continued overage, because it's coming in consistently. Should say consistently, my time here, now that we've actually started doing, now that we have really focused on preventative maintenance and bringing the fleet up to a better possible standard. It is running around $37,000 a year in that line last year, and probably that's what's going to be this year. So that's what we'll be requesting in the forward years. As far as turn back, I don't know out of the operating lines if we'll be turning anything back. I think it's a little too early to say, although I did mention to Ray, we did have an article that was passed in FY23 for $5,000 for the management software. As you may know, we operate off of spreadsheets for a $3 million budget, which is pretty, not the best scenario. I did request funding for the software, but realistically, the more time I spend now and working with Lisa and Ray, it's probably not the best interest of taxpayers' money to look for yet another disparate program to run within the district, and that should probably be turned back and become part of a larger conversation on some type of ERP or enterprise resource planning platform of some type that would be more across the board. So, but with that ends the budget report. Pending any questions.
I have a question. The brush breaker?
Brush breaker, still waiting on a title transfer process. So thank you for bringing that up. So I'm still trying to navigate how that official process moves forward. It is currently residing over at, Joint Base Cape Cod, because we don't have a place for it right now, with the second ambulance. There is, an interest that it was supported by the Board of Fire Commissioners, and they voted to move it over there until such time as we can determine that best process for title transfer. They would like to take title transfer of title, and then put in, the appropriate money to bring, that apparatus back, essentially a full rehab on it. And then, it's a very appropriate apparatus for the regular types of fires they have out on the base, and on the rare occasion that we might need to call on it or to come back here to Cotuit. It will be on the run cards for Cotuit. If we had a brush fire of the type that would require the services of a breaker, they would respond and put their personnel on it and assist with that. So ultimately, I think it's kind of a win-win for the district. But as far as navigating that process, I'm still trying to figure out how to make that happen, whether it needs to go on an article in the warrant at a special meeting, or if it is something that can be done through the Prudential committee, similar to, I know that we've moved vehicles, done title transfer prior to my time here, but I was not fully part of those processes.
And Chief, again, just for background for those at home, this is a process whereby we are transferring our brush breaker to a.
Yeah, so this was, the background and history was kind of brought up through several, Board of Fire Commissioners meetings. So the brush breaker, which we own, needs about $100,000 to $150,000 worth of rehabilitation work on it. In my time here, it was only responded to one call, and it was only on that call because the fire engine was out of service due to mechanical issues. So it came as a second piece to a fire.
I'm not
Yeah,
questioning it.
no.
So people know what we're talking about.
So there was a time in Cotuit where it was a very appropriate piece of apparatus. When I was a teenager and on a mountain bike riding through these woods, and when there weren't as many homes around here, it was a very appropriate piece of fire apparatus. It's just not for us anymore, and the return on investment for what it needs for rehab is, it's just not there.
Okay, so the plan is to give it to.
Yep, Joint Base, which is a neighboring department, which still has that scrubby pine, the scrubby oak, the wide open spaces that is perfect for that piece of apparatus. And if we had a situation that arose here someplace in Cotuit that had young growth, it's just not designed. When you look at Crocker's Neck now, or behind my house out and where the wells are in Sampson's Mills, with the age of that growth, it's just not the type of vegetation that those apparatus were designed for.
The guidance that I got was that since it's a capital asset, it really should be voted on by the district rather than just the Prudential.
Right, that was my next question.
The
We had a
chief asked how we formally do it, and although it's not clear, be on the safe side, it was suggested that it would be a district article rather than a Prudential.
Because I remember a few years ago, we were gonna transfer a truck. Down actually, so it'll probably need to be an annual meeting item, and you want to be prepared for questions.
Yeah, certainly. At the end of the day, if the district wants to invest it, but I think there's much more urgent needs for the village. So, yeah.
Does it matter if it's fully depreciated, right?
Appreciation, we don't have appreciation in Mass General County There's no depreciation under mass rules, so. The fact that it's fully depreciated
Doesn't matter.
come down,
Okay. Yeah,
so.
How old vehicle is it?
no, I don't know, I'd have to look back and tell you, so yeah, it is, yeah, I do know that whether it's the law or not, it is fully depreciated as far as,
Yeah.
the information provided by, yeah.
Yeah, it's-
By the treasurer's
Yeah,
office.
it's fully depreciated. but,
Yes,
on mass, it's still,
right, yep, so, yeah, certainly, yeah, yeah, gladly, tell anybody about it, it's,
no, it's
yeah,
good.
it's something which is, yeah, not of value to the district, in my professional opinion, so. All right,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
great, all right, thank you.
Ray, treasurer's report?
Treasurer's report, overall, we're, at this point, we're looking very good. Overall revenue is, being 7 months into our fiscal year, our target for the budget is 58%. We don't phase our budget, so we take a total budget and take a percentage of it as we move through the year. We're in January, we finished January rather, and that would mean that we should be 58% through the budget. When we look at overall revenue, we're standing at 59%. So we're just over budget in terms of revenue. Tax collections for current year taxes are running behind, but it's made up by penalty, interest, and lien recapture. So overall tax revenue is positive. The water department, as I pointed out, is below where they would be normally at this point in the year. But as we just heard, we're fully expectant that they will achieve their budget target for the year. And the fire department is ahead, as well as the Prudential activities, primarily interest. With the high interest that is now available, we've been able to invest surplus funds and stabilization funds and generate some good returns. On the expenditure side, overall, we're at 56% versus 58%. And that includes some one-time expenses that we pay early in the year for retirement and insurance. So, well, even better than that 56% when you take those matters into account. Each article, each department is under budget. And there are no noticeable variances other than we heard about in the fire department for maintenance, which we believe will be resolved overall for the department by the end of the year. Looking at the articles, we're all on target with each of the articles and in total on the articles. And we have adequate cash to cover the remaining articles to be spent. We have debt that we'll be entering into for the mains. I've delayed that, trying to save a few dollars, but we'll be taking that debt out before the end of the year. So in the report, I took a look at the school projects individually, see where we are on there. I know we have some maintenance issues, and I wanted to make sure that we knew what funds we had available. Cash position is strong. We're able to invest currently unneeded or surplus funds in T-bills and CDs, and that has been able to generate the interest that over budget that I mentioned before. So overall, January position And all the expectations, as we've just heard, are for the year to be concluded well within the budget.
Any questions, gentlemen?
None.
No. Okay. All right, moving on to the school. Last Wednesday morning at 2:18, I had a phone call from the police department to notify me that the school had been broken into again. And they wanted to know if I wanted to go in at 2:18 in the morning to check it out, and I declined. Lisa and I went back in the afternoon, and we have some pictures here of what we found of the destruction that was done at the school. That's a bathroom. Particularly is the top of the bathrooms. Water butler in the front hall. The bathroom in the kitchen. I have no idea what those things are, but they now reside in the gym. They also found a box of fluorescent tube replacements. It was almost a full box of probably 20 or 30 tubes, which now have been broken all over the entire building. That's the steps to the stage that are no longer attached. Where they broke in the janitor's area to get in this time. And it's damaged to the front desk. That's it. So,
How did the police get notice that this was happening?
well, fortunately, our fire chief is very good friends with the deputy chief, police chief. And he talked to them about, because of school vacation, maybe driving through and looking at the building more often. So that's how they found the broken window that they came through.
I personally, once next to the field, I'm down there all the time, I go. I'm always trying to see somebody doing something wrong, but and I go by.
So, before this happened, we discussed what to do with the building. And one of the things we wanted to get information on was, the motion detectors. So we met with someone from Cape Cod Alarm who has the account from the time it was a Barnstable school. And, got a proposal for that done. So, so I had some difficulty getting so after that, I asked I didn't get the proposal for quite some time. So I called and asked what the story was, and the person that was doing the proposal had COVID. So, they said they, get him to do it, and, after that, I didn't get any more information for another week and a half, and that's because he was on vacation. So, I called up and said, I need it for this meeting. So, the first proposal you see is for the heat sensors, that are gonna replace the smoke detectors at the recommendation of our fire chief. The next one is, to replace the existing control panel, a long range wireless radio monitoring, and then that was the one from the technician that came with no talking about installing wireless detectors in the building. And so I called and got that. So that's the last one. And so I decided to call Mr. Nemec, who does our monitoring of the fire station and Freedom Hall and 56 I Street. And he came down and looked at the building. Where is it? You don't know.
I've got the comparison table up.
I've got it.
The
Where's it
comparison
up there? So, He's gonna, he needs to replace one of the panels. He says he thinks we only need 6 motion detectors, a zone expander, battery and transformer, radio transistor, contact central station, fire alarm, use of old panel, we can keep that, 17 smokes with change to heat detectors and connect a radio transmission to central station. So his bid is slightly more than. Is that on that also?
But it includes a couple of more things,
Yeah.
replacing the burglar alarm panel and touchpad and producing sirens with detected motion as a deterrent for people break in. So that's not included in the other.
Did he give you any indication as to the timing of when he would be able to complete this work?
Fairly quick. So my recommendation is that we go with Mr. Nenick. I think, I would prefer to use him considering the difficulty I had in just getting a quote from Cape Cod Alarm.
I agree. It was, we were in there, what, 3 weeks ago now?
Yeah,
At least 2 weeks ago.
3 weeks, 3 weeks.
With Cape Cod Alarm Company and are only now getting a quote. Then there was substantial damage at the time. There was obviously substantial additional
More
damage.
damage, yeah.
If Nemec can do it quickly,
Yeah.
then I would be in favor of that.
You want me to also pull up David Kerr's estimate if instead we put
So- So the other recommendation was that we plywood all the windows.
I think Chief Brown may have a view on that based on our discussions. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but.
So good evening again. I did send the mass fire codes to Fran in regards to the requirements for vacant buildings, which this is, and there are fire codes that apply to this, and so first off is removing all anything that is can be combustible within inside the building and that can be gathered and contribute to a fire load. Also have to secure all floors accessible from grade utilizing one of the following methods. So one is secure all windows and doors in accordance with the U.S. Fire Administration Arson Prevention Initiative board up procedures. So this is right from the Mass, fire codes. So there is a very specific process that if you are going to board up, and I gave the details for those, and it does actually tell you how you do it.
We did see those.
Yeah.
Fran passed them along. I was actually talking.
Yeah,
about
and
our conversation.
right, and then once you do that, of course, right now we have some windows there, so I drive through there almost daily. It sounds like some of the community is. I know several people that spend time there with their dogs, and so I know that there's a lot of people from the community keeping an eye out on the property. It is a concern that once you board up all of the property and all you cannot see in there, that when people do find their way in there, which people are creative and they can still find their way in, there's really no way to tell that they're in there now. And it gives them more time to be undetected, to do things without being seen. Right now, I can drive by the school, drive around, do a lap around it, and see through a lot of the windows, and that may have some level of prevention. So then the other options are the alarm system or a 24-hour watch person. And those are the 3 options provided by the Mass Fire Code.
Wouldn't the alarm system take care of the fact that you couldn't see in the building?
Well, that would be if you're planning on doing both. Yeah, yes, that would make it safer if you are going to board it up. And yeah, it is obviously a concern. The more time it stays there in that condition, the more time people go in there. And I did reach out to the police department because it's been my anecdotal observation that 3-day weekends, it appears that there's more vandalism that takes place when I have no proof, but I suspect it's when kids have more time on their hands and they're out of school. And so I was concerned with the school vacation period coming up, that there'll be kids outside of school, more time, later nights, just more time to get into trouble. And I have no idea if that's what is in fact happening, but it did appear to be the case. So, when you start boarding up buildings, if they do have a fire in there and something gets out of control, that those board up systems are pretty secure. So if you start boarding up all the ways out, then people can get trapped in there. And in a vacant building, generally fires don't just start on their own. Sometimes it's arson, sometimes it's even on a fire setting, unintentional. Sometimes it's homeless people trying to keep warm. And then it's up to my people to go in and put the fire out and determine if there's somebody inside there that is trapped in there by the fire. So, yeah, it is a concern, for me. And did that answer your question?
That was what I was interested in hearing, yeah.
Okay.
So, cost of boarding up all the windows is $10,629.64. Or we can just continue to do it piecemeal, one window at a time.
I am and have been of the opinion that the more money that you put into this never-ending system and struggle of the building going to pot. I mean, whether it is demolished or it is remodeled or whatever the eventuality is, it's going to be reduced to such a state that any continuing damage to it is going to be irrelevant. I think that if we put the alarms in it for our peace of mind, but I don't think $10,000 worth of plywood is going to help us. It would be making a meaningful difference. It would be a wise choice.
I am inclined to try the alarm system. The alarm, the motion detector will respond directly to who?
It's Central Station in Hyannis is their station, and the motion sensors will work. They'll be able to get into a classroom, and we won't know they're in the classroom, but if they go into the hall, the motion sensors will pick it up.
And that
And the
goes
alarm will go off.
to Nemec Alarm Central Station.
Yes.
And they call the police.
Yes,
And us.
and us.
I've used both of these companies, and I would say Nemec is one to go with, definitely. But yeah, they'll call you first, and then they'll flash the police.
Yeah.
I'll let you say, oh, it's a false alarm, and give you a code, and then they won't, but
I'm inclined to go with Nemec, with one last chance to see if we can get ahead of this without completely boarding up the entire school, which I tend to agree with you, Seth. It seems like,
yeah, I think it's totally pointless, personally. I mean, any level of damage that occurs short of the building being incinerated, which is a real possibility at this point.
yeah, I think we don't want the place burning down.
No.
I mean, we don't want to put our firefighters at risk,
No,
et cetera. We don't want crime to occur in there
right.
while it's on our watch.
Well,
How
that's,
about a few cameras, like catch,
Well, that's what we're discussing. They're motion detectors. They're not literal cameras,
But
but
somebody has to watch them.
yeah.
And the monitoring companies don't monitor cameras.
or they don't want to, they don't say it.
I just think it would be pointless to go, I mean, this is a reasonable expense for a reasonable outcome.
Okay.
Anything above and beyond that, I think is totally unnecessary. That's my opinion. But we'd have to do it right, wouldn't we? We'd have to, as Chief says, we'd have to actually go about.
Oh, yeah.
Without being in contravention of the fire code, say, we'd have to do a proper boarding up. So then how much would that cost? And who would have
No,
to
this
hire?
is
This is the equivalent of that.
yeah, this is David looked up the code, so. All right, so can I have an emotion to accept Mr. Nemec's proposal for the Cotuit Elementary School of $58?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Great. Back to the school. I don't think that I'm interested in waiting until May to have a special meeting about the school. I am still of the opinion that, what should be on the warrant for a special meeting is one, demo, and two, to see what this, if there is support for, some sort of community center at that building. We have not gotten from the interested parties any information about, how they're going to, fund this, or operate it. And I don't think that they understand the complexities of operating a community center and all that's involved with it. I just think that, they're gonna be building a new community center in Osterville next year. And I think there's one in Osterville, there's one in Hyannis, there are senior centers available. Freedom Hall is available, that they haven't, taken advantage of Freedom Hall to use a lot of the programs that they're suggesting that they want. So, I would rather have a meeting where people actually voted to see if that's what they want to have the school used for, rather than spending the money on doing an RFP and then finding out people aren't interested in it.
What do I think?
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that, as we said, as I have said, at least as we have said, that seems like the most logical course of action. If there is something that is presented as a petitioning article on a warrant, that's one thing. But otherwise, I think that's a fair way to do it, because it allows for an option. And, you know, as we said, we're still waiting for something concrete to materialize, so.
I agree with both of those, discussions of the situation. Just to bring people up to speed, there was a meeting of a group, I believe they call themselves the Cotuit Community Center Group, and they submitted to the Prudential Committee a petition with 31 names. And let me just read it into the record. Cotuit Elementary School petition to release funds to study potential uses. The undersigned support the release and expenditure of funds previously voted and allocated in 2021 Article 17 by voters of the Cotuit Fire District for the purpose of updating prior analyses and determining COLA. The current condition of the Cotuit Elementary School for the purpose of renovating, repurposing, and reusing all or part of the CES for non-school reuse as may be further voted by the Cotuit Fire District voters. Semicolon, an analysis of potential uses to benefit the community, the estimated costs of rehabilitating and renovating all or part of the Cotuit Elementary School for some non-school uses, and the estimated cost of demolishing the Cotuit Elementary School building and returning the area to a green field. I think that this kind of points out what both Seth and Fran have indicated, that we still don't really have a particular goal in mind for the school.
Yeah.
That is, you know, we really need a fill in the blank. How much would it cost to get us there? We're still kind of thinking about what might possibly work there. My recommendation is slightly different from Fran's, which is that we should have a special meeting. We should put on the warrant a request for proposal to get demolition quotes. And if members of the community want to have a specific request, alternative request, under the bylaws, as I understand it, that requires 50 signatures of district voters. And they can put that in, and to Seth's point, if in fact that is what the fire district wants, that is something other than demolition. We should figure that out sooner rather than later. I know that there are people who are interested in continuing to assess the state of the school. I would again, as I've had many times, refer to the Habib report and its update, which is on the Prudential Committee website, which is a very detailed architectural review undertaken by an architectural firm and paid for by the town of Barnstable. So I guess that is the current thinking of the committee, if I've summarized it accurately.
That sounds fine to me. I mean, I don't, as I've said again, ad nauseum, meeting after meeting after meeting, that seems like the most logical way to go. I don't see how we can do it any other way, because we as a committee have what we believe is the most prudent path forward financially, and I haven't seen, we haven't seen a wellspring of idea or support in anything very specific that we could action, that is action. And as we see through the continued, deterioration of the building itself and the continuing costs associated with maintaining it. And, it's just going to continue to snowball and become more expensive and more expensive, to the point at which we've already seen an escalation of the vandalism. It started small, started to get worse, smashing stuff up. So, and we'll put cameras in, okay, what will the response time be for the police department, or any, you know what I mean, just anything can happen. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is I believe that the longer that this process carries on, it will continue to snowball, and it will represent a significant liability for us and also a drain.
Yeah.
And if we talk, I know later on the agenda, we have strategy upcoming, but in an environment where the fire district has a significant capital, the potential for significant capital outlay in the very near term that will amount to tens of millions of dollars possibly. So, that being said, I think that if people really are serious about doing this, that they'll show up at the meeting, that there could be a warrant item, an article that can be petition based. And if it's that many people are interested in committing that much money to it, then that will carry. If not, I think that we just we're representing what is our assessment, which is to demolish it, cut our losses, and see what we can do in the future.
And just to be clear, when Seth speaks about possible capital expenditures of tens of millions of dollars, he's referring to the possibility of the fire department needing a new firehouse, and the possibility, perhaps more remote, of the water department needing some kind of filtration system relating to PFAS chemicals, which have been found in other Cape water sources.
And it's not just PFAS, it's,
Manganese, iron.
right, yeah, and other emerging concerns. Yeah, so,
There's a lot of people that aren't here, they're down south. But maybe this decision should be made too. But to make it now, there's a lot of people not doing it.
Well, it will be though, that's the whole thing. Even if we have, so there won't be anything done until we have a district meeting of some kind. So we don't have the authority, and there was some misconception about that we don't have the authority to make a decision one way or another about the disposition of the building. So even if we get to the point where we have we'll get to the district meeting, right? And there'll be warrant articles that'll be on there, whether presented by us or by the public or whomever else. And those will inform what it is that we will be instructed to do essentially by the voters. And so we'll have, we'll just wrap it up. We will have the opportunity, we can't do it now. We're not doing anything now. We want to establish a timeline for when these meetings will occur, you know what I mean? So if we have a special district meeting prior to May to discuss this, what is it, it's the 27th of February now. If we had one, the earliest we would probably have one, even if we did, would you say, in April? Maybe, or you want to say, is that what we're discussing too? We may have it sooner.
I think that's what we're discussing.
Yeah.
Right, but so we'll get to that point where we will we'll bring it before everybody, and then the voters make the decision. And then we're instructed to do one thing or the other. And so really, we don't have other than our advisory capacity. And then our executing, the execution of what is directed at the district meeting. So there is I've heard that, there is some confusion. Do we want to have public comment or questions now?
Well, no, we'll wait. No, we have public comment at the end, and you can ask your question, and thank you. But I just want to say that there has been comment that, people voted $200,000 to look at this project, but that doesn't mean that we have to spend the $200,000. It's, I think, if it's just a small minority that want us to do this, I just think, considering the projects that we have coming up and the huge expenses that are going to be a burden to the population of Cotuit, I don't think it's prudent to just go ahead and,
And when we do have those meetings, it will be closer to when all the people are here, if they are registered voters and can come to the district meeting.
You do need to be a full-time resident, am I
Right.
correct?
You have to vote in Barnstable, increase in precinct 7.
Do we want to talk about scheduling an actual date for such a special meeting? We've talked about it in circles
Yeah.
for at least the last 2 meetings, so,
do you want to do it before or after the district meeting?
before.
Now,
Madam Chair, my question directly relates to the timing of. And ask you.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Penny Taylor, Canfield Drive.
You have to come up here.
Thank you, Patty Daly, Banfield Drive, Cotuit. So it's my understanding that any petition article would need to be filed with the district at least 30 days ahead of this special district
No.
meeting.
2 weeks, correct, Charlie,
Well, it's
for its special meeting?
14 days, well. When the warrant closes. That is the last day. A petition article.
Right.
And
So-
when does,
We're, notice has to be given 14 days prior to a special district meeting.
We would be giving more notice than that, I believe.
No, he's legal notice. I thought legal notice was just a week for special district meeting.
No, special is 14 days
Okay.
for annual and such.
Oh, okay, all right. So,
So
it would have to be 14 days before the warrant closes. For petition.
that's when it would have to be publicized in the paper. Stuff, so you need additional time before that.
Charlie, can you explain terms? What does it mean when the warrant closes?
thank you.
So when the warrant closes, that's stops any petition coming forward.
Yeah, but what is the term, the warrant closes? How does,
when we vote,
It would be- When you bring back, you bring your,
when we do what?
when you.
And
then
file that with the
then you
town or?
Close.
No, it means nothing can be added. We have to, all the articles have to be prepared and done 30 days prior to our annual district meeting in May, which means that no more articles can be put on the warrant. We have to, everybody has to have their budget articles in and. it has
Okay,
to-
but this is gonna be a special meeting,
Special meeting, right?
so the same thing would apply.
And,
Everyone,
I mean, how soon do you want any petitions before a special meeting? 30 days?
I would say.
Okay, 30 days.
okay,
So I would hope that you would build that in to your thoughts.
that's yes.
Thank you.
Back to,
what we talk, about the. when we
so
sign
I was gonna say,
What would the timing be of the meeting that would allow interested parties to, give them enough notice to put in a proposed.
I mean, 60 days. I mean, so we were gonna have it outside of the annual district meeting
Yes,
in an effort to isolate the issue
Yeah,
particularly. So it
exactly.
doesn't get buried in an agenda.
they have to collect the signatures. Get it to the clerk,
Right,
the town clerk, to have them certified
right,
and show that whole process, so.
right. Well, that's the thing. That's why I was at, yeah, I understand, but we were gonna separate it just so that it would have the attention that it required and not be lost among the large warrant of the annual district meeting. So I mean, if it's now March, almost, if it were, our
First
meeting,
week in May.
first week in May, we do that, that'd be fine with me. Because then we're on the 25th is our meeting, right, or whatever
Charlie, what is the date for our annual meeting?
Our annual meeting is the last Wednesday in May, it's the 29th.
the.
May 15th. Or, it doesn't have to be a Wednesday. I was actually gonna suggest that we do it on a Saturday. Because, I was hoping that, the church on Route 28, that the Harbor Church is,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I was hoping that was gonna be available, because that's a big building. And it's, handicap accessible, and it has parking lot.
Right,
But I don't think it's gonna be available in time.
no,
So the other option would be to use the community room at the church.
right,
So I was thinking maybe do it on a Saturday, because they have, other meetings and things that take up the weeknights.
So
That's
should
fine.
so should we aim for the week of May 6th or May 13th? Depending on, availability, let's start with, the Cotuit Federated Church.
is that Harbor Church gonna be, like, open, meaning it's unavailable, or they're moving out?
No, it's gonna be a second church.
Oh, well, I thought that was already there. That was already open, the one that was where the,
Feed and Grain Store is open. The one on 28 Hyannis, but this
Right.
isn't one on 28. It was the Italian
right,
club.
yes, I
Yeah,
remember, I thought it had already been there, I guess it was something else in between. It was the, oh, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, right.
Just,
So one, so aim for May, the week of,
May 6th.
May
or
6th.
13th.
okay.
I'm pretty flexible on days in terms of an opinion of what would be a good meeting date. Any thoughts on that? I think Saturday would be okay
Yeah,
too.
that's fine with me, you'll have better turnout probably.
Yeah, and I think because of the other groups that the church calendar is filled with, that's probably their only option.
Right.
Let's see.
Evening is better for me.
On the
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know what I'll do.
Right? May 6th. Yeah, May 6th. That's a Saturday, yeah. Okay, yeah, well, we're not gonna worry about that week.
Evenings are better for Seth.
Is that
Yeah, I
the-
don't know, I could do the middle of the day, but I mean.
No, I
whatever.
don't think,
Yeah, we'd like to have him here.
yeah, no, so
is that the special or the annual?
special,
6, with the annual on the 29th of May?
right? So we're gonna look at these 2 weeks to see what's available. Any other discussion on that?
Not for me.
Okay. So Freedom Hall, Freedom Hall's getting busier in terms of rentals.
That's good.
People calling me for all year round. And the only thing I'd like to do in terms of improvements is a rain sensor on our irrigation system. We have one of those installed.
They're not particularly effective, but they're better than nothing.
Well, actually, mine worked great.
Did it?
Yeah, my irrigation system didn't come on the entire month of September.
Well, then get the brand you purchased rather than the one I did.
So could I have a motion to purchase a rain sensor for the irrigation system at Freedom Hall?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thanks. And next is a long-term district strategy meeting. We had one a couple of years ago.
Was it last year or
It
2
was
years?
last
2
year.
years, no, it was 2 years ago.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and, yeah, it was June of 22. And I think, with the, with the expenses coming up for the district and, just the overall change in the, economics, it would be a good time to, do that again.
Absolutely.
I agree.
So, yeah, so we can do that after the, annual meeting.
And that would be a meeting of all the members of the fire, water, and Prudential. Committee.
Yeah, right. Gentlemen,
Committees.
the committees.
Yep.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing to report. But
When-
we
when
will
did they
definitely
do
have a
training?
meeting prior to the end of the fiscal year.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm gonna, ask the bylaw committee that I think, that, policy advisory and the bylaw committee should be having a report of what they do in the annual, because, it's just nobody
Right.
knows what they're doing. So that means you would have to have meetings,
Right, regularly.
regular, but you don't. That would be a change to the bylaws to do that, so you wouldn't have to do that for this year, but. That would,
Sounds good.
The bylaws committee will look into that.
yes. Good. All right, now, any further public comment?
Yes, we have one person, John Gardner would like to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, in regards to the date that you're thinking of setting up the annual, the special meeting in relation to the school property, if you want me to be the moderator for that meeting, I have a granddaughter's graduation on May 18th. If we could stay away from that Saturday, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other public comments?
Hey, I'm George Foy, 785 Main Street. Always a pleasure to attend these meetings. I just want to, for the record, say that I don't think it's up to you guys to determine who's a minority as far as deciding what to do with the school. Also, that there are people in the village who are interested in actually getting information and possibly funding a study, fully cognizant of the costs involved, although those funds have been allocated. Certainly hoping to get something on the warrant. Respect to a study and actually finding out some hard facts about what can be done with the school. As far as some comments have been made here about, and I've heard these repeated, how there's no. Sorry. I'm trying to talk to the robot. There have been numerous comments about how there's nothing concrete been proposed. I have to say that there have been a lot of ideas floating around and some of them are more concrete than others, but until we actually know what the costs are involved are, there was a report several years ago, the heavy report that we've been talking about. But I'm not sure quite how relevant that is anymore. I think we do need real facts to understand what's going on. And what the possibilities are, and also what the costs of demolition are, because those have certainly gone up. So, again, we're hoping to get an article on the warrant or a petition on the warrant or whatever the legal terms to be able to at least put before the villagers the possibility of having an objective study made. And then after that, the village decides, and again, this is entirely to give the village the option. We're getting rid of what is could be a significant community asset. Just to give the villagers a choice, see what the facts are. And after having determined what the facts are in terms of demolition, in terms of keeping it, in terms of possibly preserving part of it, etc., then I think the step would be, if it's decided to keep it, use it as community asset, some kind of community center, then bringing funds in and having and actually a concrete proposal and a concrete vehicle for services. As you all know, there's already a nonprofit that has been set up to that end, but it's a little bit early to actually start inviting people to come to a center that doesn't exist yet, and that may not exist if the village decides that they don't want it. Again, it's up to the village to choose, and that's all we're trying to do. Thank you.
Any response to public comment?
Not really.
No, other than I agree with George, that, it is up for the community to decide, and that's what's gonna happen, at the special meeting. Anybody else?
Accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.